Welcome to everyone joining the live Series 2, Episode 4. We're talking all things mental health community, mental health support. I hope everyone's doing brilliant. I want everyone to put in the comments how they're feeling today. Welcome everyone who's joining. We are just waiting for our lovely guest. I hope everyone's doing well today. Series 2, Episode 4. We're talking all things mental health community. We're talking mental health support. I'm going to be giving your questions. Cool shirt, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Right, guys. Also, we're just trialing for the moment to turn off the comments during the interview. Only reason being it can get a little bit... That's a lovely comment. It can get a little bit distracting for the guests, so we're just going to try it. You can still show your appreciation and the love with the hearts. But yeah, I'm going to be giving all your questions that you've submitted to the guests, and yeah, let's have a really good interview.
How are
Hello.
you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm not too bad.
Brilliant. What time is it over there?
It is 11.
11 o'clock. Cool picture behind you as well, sir.
Yeah, no, this is my getaway in my garage now.
Oh, nice, nice. Well, yeah, thank you very much for coming on the live to answer the questions from my followers. I love everything that you do over on TikTok. I love the community support that you guys offer across the whole spectrum of mental health. And it's just a pleasure to have you on just to discuss about everything that you guys are doing. And answer some of the questions. So just for people who don't know who you are or aren't as familiar with your work, if you could just give a brief explanation about what you work, the organisation, and obviously your role on social media.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My name is Eric. I started kind of a movement, started a company, then switched it over to a nonprofit. And it was based around, it's fully based around mental health, mental illness, sobriety, and suicide awareness. I lost my wife in 2015, August, to suicide. I lost my dad in 2017 to suicide. I attempted suicide myself in 2018. I'm diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, GAD, and MDD. So GAD is general anxiety disorder. MDD is major depressive disorder, clinical depression. I take medication. I see a therapist. I struggle with body image. I've self-harmed before. I'm a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict. So I've been through a lot, and I found a lot of what I learned as I've been in therapy, I would say, ever since I was like 13. For different things. And a lot of times I struggled even with the therapist trying to understand like what trial and error was. And I wanted to do something where I could bridge the gap between a crisis hotline and therapy, because there's nothing in between. You're either in therapy or you're going through a massive struggle and you're calling a crisis hotline and you're freaking out. But where's the support in between? And that's what I really wanted to accomplish. And it's slowly growing, and I've done this. This is a passion. It's not even my job. Even with my nonprofit, I started it a little over 2 years ago, started it on Twitter, and it's slowly grown. And amazingly on TikTok, that's the one that blew up the most over YouTube and everything else. And I think that's at like 1.4 million right now. Followers.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's cool to see a social media app even like that, where people acknowledge mental health.
No, definitely.
So many people we don't talk about it. We're afraid of a therapist. We lie about it. And, I tried therapy. It didn't work. And we just struggle on our own.
And like you said, I think that's a really good point to make. It's really cool how someone like yourself can use an app like TikTok and be able to get the message out in almost these small bite-size information for the age group that are using that as well. So that's people who may be susceptible to mental health like conditions.
Hmm. And it does. I mean, it hits those people. It lets people know that therapy is okay. I never wanted to be a therapist because
Hmm.
I'd rather help thousands of people understand and get into therapy than only be able to help an X amount of people. To bring them comfort, to let them understand, what therapy really is, what it entails, and even gotten to the point now that I have a lot of psychologists that reach out to me for all my coping skills to help kind of run
Yeah.
through them with them so that they can help a lot of their patients. Because most of the time, at least my experience was, whenever I went to therapy, I struggled with anxiety, and they'd say practice your breathing, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I practice my breathing, but what else can you do for me?
No, that's a really good point, and it's just very similar. I can resonate with your whole ethos because over on the DLC Anxiety platform, we created it to try and give someone just to let them know that what they're going through, they're not going through it alone, and it's something that I've been through myself. 10 years ago, I went through a panic disorder, and just to tell them that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and almost create a community feel where each person can actually help each other with, like you say, their own coping skills. What works for one person might help someone else. And yeah, just to give that sense of community and a sense of togetherness on the journey of recovery, really.
And that it makes a huge difference. People, I think we sometimes underestimate the power of support because we do just feel alone. We feel that nobody understands. And when you start hearing other people's story, you're like, okay, well, I relate to them. They're going through something similar I'm going through. I'm not alone anymore. And there's a lot of healing factors to that.
Yeah, that was a really good point. And just regarding your own personal journey, how do you feel that you are regarding your mental health journey? Would you say that there's still flare-ups at the moment, or would you say that you have the techniques and everything to help support you the best?
I still struggle, not nearly like I once did. Um,
Hmm.
Being ADHD, Adderall is my lifesaver. If I don't take my meds, I'm messed up that day. Um, but it's made it where life is a lot more bearable, a lot easier, and it's a lot joyous now. I have fun now. I have a life now instead of just being paralyzed by everything.
No, that's really inspirational as well. So you said with the ADHD, if you don't take the medication on that specific day, you would feel the consequences of not taking that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's where I try to remind people even too, it's okay to take your meds. I mean, I'm prescribed, and there's fluctuation too because Adderall is an addictive drug in sense, but I've been prescribed ever since I was 13 ADHD meds. I'm on Adderall now. I take 10 milligrams in the morning and 10 milligrams in the afternoon, and it allows my brain to kind of focus in where I'm not just a massive amount of thoughts that are overwhelming that I can't control what I'm even almost doing. I'm doing a bunch of projects in my head that I've never even started, and I'm
Hmm.
already mentally exhausted from that, and now I'm bored, and like my day just goes to bad.
No. And do you have some questions from the platform, if that's okay? So the followers have been they've been submitting the questions to you. The first one I have is, what is your thoughts on pets for emotional support? So I've got a follower that suffering with anxiety and depression at the moment, and do you have any experience on the benefit of pets?
I do. I share a lot about it on YouTube because I have a lot of pets.
Ah,
And,
okay.
and, and there's multiple things that the pets help you with, which people don't even realize. We think of a pet that it's going to help us just in the fact that we have another human being or another creature almost with us, another heartbeat with us. But
Hmm.
the pets go a lot deeper than that. I mean, it gets your routine down. Where a lot of times with anxiety, especially, it's so overwhelming because you don't know what's going to happen next. You're so fearful of the future of what's going to happen. It's out of my control. I don't know what's going on. And it's all those thoughts that build up where a pet helps you form that routine, whether it's a dog, whether it's a cat. You have to get up, you have to feed them, you have to water them. If it's a dog, you have to take them outside. You want to take them for a walk because you want to be a good pet owner. All of a sudden now you started creating this routine where you have to get out of bed. Even if you're struggling with depression, you have to get out of bed because you almost do more for your animal than what you will do for yourself.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah, and if you are struggling with, you know, especially any kind of panic disorder, they're great because you can actually, I mean, if you get them trained as a service animal or you get a service animal that's trained for it, they know when they're coming up. And there are cases that are extreme that people will actually go into seizures, and the animals will actually help them through the seizures. And so there are those benefits to them. The only downside to them is society in general of letting the people know that don't struggle, that this is a service animal, don't touch them. And it's difficult because especially if we're struggling with depression and anxiety ourselves, a lot of it is social anxiety. So you almost are paralyzed when these kids will come over at your animal. So I've told people, dude, if you can get a big shirt that you wear that says "Don't touch my animal, please," or whatever, it makes it a lot easier. But they're phenomenal.
No, that's amazing. And just regarding yourself, what pets do you have? Just out of interest.
I have a Belgian Malinois dog, and then I have
Oh,
3
very
cats.
nice. I've got one cat, and he's a handful. So credit to you for 3 cats. I don't know how you do that.
Well, that's where it's fun because you can find out what animals best suits your temperament. Because like with a cat is not quite as high maintenance because sometimes people are a little overwhelmed even by an animal. Outside, but maybe you're just going through something right now and you can't do it. Mine will actually bring on anxiety attacks every now and then.
Yeah.
But with cats, like their temperament is so much easier where they're less maintenance, but you still have to maintain them. So it's finding, you know, what one's best for you.
That's a really good point. And regarding the next question, I've got someone saying they live in it. So this is a really good question. I think you can resonate with your whole ethos of everything that you do. I live in the US. I can't afford access to a therapist. What would you advise me to do?
The best advice that I give people that I've been able to find out there so far is NAMI, which is NAMI .org. And it's kind of, I created a Discord community. It's a free mental health peer-to-peer support community. Because that comes down to the next part. There's a lot of therapists out there that if you don't have insurance, you're not going to be going to seeing them. If you do have insurance and it's not really good insurance, you're paying them probably out of pocket. NAMI is based more around the philosophy of almost in a sense like AA or NA. It's that group sharing, understanding that you're not alone, making some kind of human connection out there. That's probably the best resource out there. Also, you can talk to other individuals and you'll find that a lot of other ones do struggle when it comes to finances or so forth. And they can sometimes refer you even to a doctor that does help patients in that aspect if they're struggling. The hardest thing that you can find out there is a lot of people don't realize is there is not much funding when it comes to mental health. That's why like the suicide hotline, for example, majority of it's ran off of volunteers. Volunteers turn through there pretty darn quick. Not a lot of training on it because there's not a lot of funding on it. That's why you can wait on hold for up to an hour, up to 2 hours, because you assume that it's a nonprofit, it's ran by the government, whatever you want to just assume, and that's what it is. And these organizations aren't. They don't have any true donors donating. They're somewhat held together. And so it's almost like, hey, I'll just kind of push it off. Why don't you call this hotline or this crisis line or this text line? You're going to get a lot of response from bots. You maybe get to talk to them for 20 minutes, and then they're going to try and push you off the phone because they got to keep going because they are so understaffed. And with that, realize that there are a lot of places out there like yourself or like myself even too, that we've started to realize that and create these different communities out there. And it's finding the one that you can kind of trial and error through it of what one helps you. And it comes down to, okay, you know, what kind of coping do you do? Or what have you found that helps with this or helps with that? Because it is then comes down to medication, I think, is important if you need it. But a lot of the coping can help you fight through a decent amount of it too.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And regarding yourself, you said obviously you're very open about medication, which is fantastic. Seeing another male open about anxiety, depression, for example, medication, because there is that stigma that's still attached to it that we're all trying to break through. Regarding CBT, have you used that and do you find that helpful?
Cognitive behavioral therapy, I have.
Yeah, and you
Um,
find that useful, yeah?
I do because that's actually the type of therapy that they do when you deal with body dysmorphia, which I struggle
Okay.
with body image. And so I actually still do CBT.
Oh, brilliant. The next question is, I watch all your TikToks all of the time. Where do you get your inspiration from, and how are you able to post so frequently?
I post probably anywhere from like 12 to 15 in a day.
Do you?
And some of them, like if I start seeing a lot of the comments of people asking for something, I'll literally repost an older one that had it. A good example is I get a lot of people that hit me up for trickle trill mania, which is it's undertone from anxiety, but it's the hair pulling of the eyebrows, pulling of the hair.
Yeah,
I get a lot of those that people will be like, "Hey, can you do a video?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I actually have a bunch of videos on it, but here I'll just post this one again."
yeah.
But a lot of it is like I literally just I wake up and I'm like, you know what, I want to share about this today, and I don't have
So it
any.
can be actually on the day you can off the cuff thing. Yeah, I'm going with this one.
Yeah, I mean, every take I don't do drafts or anything, so I don't store up any content. It's literally if I want to
Mhm.
do a TikTok, I'm like, you know what, I think this message might help somebody, and I just do it, and then I post it, and then it's done.
That's brilliant. And you said sometimes up to 15 a day,
hmm
and
Depends on
then
if
you've got
I'm
all
really really motivated or not.
yeah, and then you've got all the other social media platforms as well.
Right.
Always keeping yourself busy.
hmm
Regarding TikTok, how long did it take um, for you to notice the growth? Because obviously you said you're at 1.4 million now, and was it like a certain video that went viral, or has it been like a steady growth?
It's been a steady growth. I mean, I got onto TikTok in February of last year, and I was on it for like a month, and
Hmm.
then I was over it, and I got off of it. Still had my user ID, but I never used it. And then I went because originally I started all this on Twitter because I was I'm a guy just like especially from that
Yeah.
male perspective. I didn't want any of my friends or anybody to know about any of this stuff, and I wasn't too
Hmm.
sure even about how much what I wanted to share. So I stayed away from Facebook. I stayed away from Instagram, and I didn't know anyone on Twitter. So I started on Twitter, and it slowly grew. Um, I left TikTok, went back to Twitter. Twitter was just it is pretty toxic. Um,
Hmm.
and I was like, I got to find something else. I was like, I'll give TikTok a shot again. And it slowly grew. I want to say like October of last year, I was at maybe 80,000. And it would depend on when videos would hit. I've had probably 6 or 7 of them minimum that had my phone number on them that would have well over 1 million views. One of them got over 10 million views.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
some of my hack videos, then it would start to grow more because like one of my lemon videos of how to ground yourself on TikTok, I think it got like 1.5 million views, but somebody downloaded it and then uploaded it onto Twitter, and it got like 6 million views on Twitter. And so people
Hmm.
start sharing it, and so then you start drawing in more. And now it's a pretty consistent growth.
Well, that's amazing and really inspirational as well. And how much time do you get to like? How long are the videos?
Anywhere from 15 to 60 seconds, and total out of my day, maybe doing it is an hour, hour and a half.
Okay, that's wonderful. The next question is regarding a anxiety symptom. I've dealt with derealization. Have you ever dealt with that yourself? And do you have any tips on it?
Yeah, I have. Because you have a lot of times people screw it up, and again, this is where I remind people I'm not a doctor, counselor, therapist, but I've experienced
Hmm.
a lot of this, so I share from experience. And derealization, depersonalization is what you have to first determine what you have because they do get confused a lot.
Yeah,
Derealization is you really feel disconnected from everything. It's almost like you're living this dream where depersonalization is yourself.
yeah.
And it also depends on what's triggered it. My derealization came from withdrawal, getting sober. I mean, you don't feel connected to anything, and it's also very common, which a lot of people don't realize, is with weed, with marijuana. That is an effect that can actually last, especially if you quit, or even if you've only smoked it a few times. It's a feeling that can last you up to about 6 months.
Right.
So people don't realize that. So whenever people bring it up, the first thing I say is, okay, you got anxiety and you feel this. When was the last time you smoked weed? A majority of them will be like, well, I smoked weed like a month ago or whatever. Okay, this is a side effect actually of that. And if you write it out, it will go out. But the thing that I experienced to really help kind of bring me and center me back in from all of it was I had to just stay connected. A lot of it was sleep revolving for me. So starting to get a routine going on where I was waking up at the same time, going to bed at the same time was huge. I ended up doing a lot of books and a lot of reading. And I also found that a decent amount of time by myself just to meditate, to actually look around, helped me. Just kind of come back to like, nope, this is reality. This is where you're at. And one of the things I do is I walk my dog in the morning. So when I walk my dog, every walk, you eventually get your walk down and you have it memorized. So I started making a goal. I got to find 5 things on this walk that I've never seen before.
So almost using like a grounding technique.
Right. And so what it did is it forced me to concentrate on the here and the now. And I'm walking, I'm like, yep, this is my neighborhood. This is my dog, and it brought me back centered to where that feeling eventually ended up going away.
No, that's brilliant. And like you said, again, tying in the pet with the routine as well. Having a routine is really key. And regarding the sleep, was that, you said you're having sleep problems? Was that lack of sleep? Was it, or was it broken sleep?
It was broken sleep. It was detoxing sleep. So it was like I end up, and I still do struggle with anxiety. It can keep me up at night. And I'll go 3, 4, 5 days without like literally sleeping much at all. There might be an hour in there, 2 hours in there, and that's it. Every night. And so once you kind of get yourself on that sleep schedule, your body kind of starts to learn it. And then there's more that goes along. Like exercising does play a bit of a role in it, eating does play a bit of a role in it. And medication can play a role in it too. Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point. And that's what we try and do on our platform as well, which I can see similarities. It's just trying to get all that information out there. So I say exercise, you got meditation, mindfulness, different CBT techniques, just getting all of that information out there so people are aware of what things can be beneficial for them. Because what one works for one person might not work for someone else, but it might work for someone. So I think that's really important to try and get everything out that those guys know, really.
And I agree too, and it's hearing it from people that experience it, because there's nothing worse. Like, a lot of people do fight the diet and the exercise. I even fought it for a while, because you do get these people that are like, oh, it all changes when you change your diet. That's what's really messed up. And it's like, no, like just don't push it on me. You gotta explain it to me, show me that it kind of works, and don't push it on me as this is the cure all.
No, definitely. I think that's a really good point. The next question I have is, I watch your hacks all the time. Do you have a hack on how to control nausea when I'm anxious?
I do.
So I get asked this question a lot regarding nausea. So really interested in your hack on that.
Well, because the nausea is, because I've thrown up from anxiety before, many a times. And what it's caused by is literally your breathing and your heart rate goes up. So your heart rate goes up, you're starting to freak out. You have it all in here. And now all of a sudden your breathing gets messed up. You can feel your mouth. Like, I can describe this in detail, like when your mouth starts to like almost drool, because you know that it's coming, because your stomach is tightening up. The thing that I found that helps me is if I'm at home and it has to do with leaving the house, I'll literally throw an ice cube in my mouth so that I'm breathing. It's what it pretty much does is it shifts my breathing now, where I'm focused on my breathing. It's not like, okay, I'm going to do the little box exercise or anything like that. I have it in my mouth. I have a cool air that's going into my lungs, and it's like, okay, all right. And that helps a lot. But the other one is too, is if you have like plain like crackers, or you have plain bread and you eat that and you just throw a cracker in your mouth, it clumps into your mouth to where your mouth is engaged, your brain's now engaged with it. It stops all that drooling effect. Because like for me, when that starts to happen, I either got to do something or I'm going to throw up.
Right.
That absorbs it, so I don't have this spit or whatever you want to call it all going down my throat and into my stomach where it's just like, yep, here it is. It stops that for me, and it gives me something to focus on. And as I'm chewing, all of a sudden I start slowing my breathing down and I start getting back into routine. Same with drinking something cold. Like if you drink something cold with like a little bit of carbonation or no carbonation and make it like a clear drink, it's not like go out and get a Coke or anything. Water's probably the best. Small sips of that kind of bring you back around too, and will prevent that feeling. And if it's something that constantly is happening to somebody, one of the things is you want to start watching a little bit of what foods you're eating, like if it's a bunch of grease food or if you're eating a lot of spicy food, because you'll just start getting more acid reflux, and it makes it that much easier just to lose it when the anxiety hits.
No, yeah, they're really good points, especially the ice cube one as well.
Yeah, and because a lot of times we don't realize like so much of like when we feel like we're going to throw up or we're shaking really bad, all has to revolve around pretty much our heart rate and our breathing. And we lose track because you lose track of that and you disassociate into your head. You're lost up here. You're not realizing that you're not breathing correctly. And next thing you know, the result from that is all different changes throughout your whole body.
Yeah, that's a really good point as well. When we are anxious, the last thing we realize, like you say, is the shallow breathing that's occurring, which is then a byproduct of all these symptoms that you're feeling. So yeah, it's real. That's really good information. The next question kind of ties in what you just mentioned. I've got someone who they get panic attacks every time they're thinking about leaving the house. So almost like a panic disorder, almost like agoraphobia. Have you come across this in with yourself, with your personal experience, or with maybe people in the community that you guys have created? And do you have any advice on this?
I do, because it sounds a lot like agoraphobia. And I found one of the easiest ways to kind of break it is, especially when that fear hits, it's usually because you have to leave the house or there's some kind of appointment or there's something, and you make it to the door and you don't make it past the door. And then it even gets worse because it's like, okay, I'm failing this appointment or whatever I was supposed to go leave and do. I'm failing myself. I'm failing everybody. It's all done. It's done, and you just kind of snap. You go back into the room, you lock the door, and you hide in the dark. What I found is one of the things that helps me whenever I get into that kind of mode is to control it as much as you can. So when you do leave the house, set yourself a goal. Okay, today I'm going to leave the house once today on my terms. And I'm going to go into my front yard and I'm going to stand there for a minute and I'm going to go back inside. I'm not going because I have to do an appointment or anything. I'm doing it for me. And when you get back inside after doing that, you have that moment where you're just kind of like, whoa, okay, I did that.
Yeah.
And I had control over that. Like, cool. And then it starts building up that self-image a little bit more and a little bit more. And then you start just slowly increasing it to where it's, okay, I'm going to do it 3 times a day. Or you get a lot of people who have the same thing, like with the emergency room, where that's a huge trigger for their panic attacks. Or their anxiety attacks. And I tell people, well, go to the emergency room, ER waiting room, when you don't have to be there. Because you have full control over it. Nothing's bad's going to happen. No one's going to do anything to you because you're in complete control. You're not there because you have to be there. You're there because you got this. And it slowly starts to shift your thought process where you're like, okay, I've done this before. I can do this. And it's just I found a lot of times setting a lot of those small goals and gaining as much control over it as you can.
No, that's really good. And like you said, the setting of the small goals, and then the rewarding yourself, like you say, praising yourself for every little step that you're taking, because all them little steps gives the end goal eventually. So like you say, once you might be able to get into the garden, but then the next time you might be able to get to the end of the street, for example, and then it's praising yourself, almost like rewiring the brain, just to let the brain know that it's there's nothing to fear. Like you say, nothing bad's gonna happen.
Right, and nothing bad happens. You're in control of it, and then all of a sudden you start finding joy in it, and then all of a sudden you find a desire of like, okay, when is it coming up next? And then it's even finding, you know, the different communities too of the people that understand, because the worst thing then is if you do start to celebrate that and you tell somebody who has no idea what you're talking about and they look at you like, so what, you made it into your front yard. That's not, somebody who doesn't struggle with anxiety or anything, like that's not a big deal. But to somebody who does, they're like, dude, I totally get it, man, way to go.
Yeah,
you know, and you start to get that positive reinforcement. And you're like, okay, I got this.
No, that's a really good point. So I'd firstly just like to thank you for the time you spent in speaking, answering the questions for our platform. If people want to see more of you and they're not aware of the TikTok, Instagram, for example, and I heard during the interview you said that you had a few books out as well. Where can they find the books, and what are your social media handles?
All social media handles, if you type in DR1VN, it'll pop up. Like if you go to YouTube and type it in, that's not what the whole handle is, but if you type that in, you'll find it. I own that whole area pretty much. But I do a lot on YouTube because YouTube's actually my favorite of all the platforms, because you can actually share a little bit more in detail and you're not under the time restraint of 15 seconds or a minute. So I'm on YouTube. I do a lot with TikTok. I do a lot with now Instagram. I wasn't very active with Instagram until just a couple months ago. I have a link tree though up in my bio that has links to it all. I don't have any books out yet. I have books in the works. I'm doing one right now on pretty much walking through the suicides with my wife and my dad. That should be out hopefully by the end of September. I was hoping by August, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And I do a lot of mental health workshops too. Because a lot of people, again, you can't really afford counseling, you can't afford therapy, and I don't blame a lot of people. I mean, it is expensive. And so I have another mental health advocate named Maddie that's on TikTok, that her and I have started putting on these workshops once a month and just kind of going through our experiences, doing a Q&A, because she has a background in mental health. I have a little bit, even though it's not my job, I do work for a dual diagnosis, doing group therapy on all of the ways to set boundaries and coping techniques and stuff. So we both have experience working with people that struggle with mental health in different areas. So all that though is in the in my bio link. I have three different Discord communities. I've took Discord and kind of created it into a real-time support. So I have an adult Discord community, and I want to say there's like 7,500 adults in there. I have a teen one that's about 3,500 teens. And then I'm doing an addiction one also.
And you can access all them on the website as well, can't you?
Yeah, you can access them all on the website of RUDR1VN.com, or if you just even hit the little link tree. That's been the greatest invention in the world, to hit the link tree.
No, it really has. Especially for Instagram, yeah. It's an absolute lifesaver.
Yeah.
And you said, obviously, you started this off yourself. So how many people is there working with you now?
Volunteer-wise, there's about 35.
Oh, that's brilliant. What an achievement.
Yeah, and hopefully by next year it starts to become, because one of my goals is to get it to where I can pay my staff instead of just using them as volunteers. Because I want to be able to show people that even if you are on disability or you can't hold down a job, that you still have the ability to have a job out there. Because, you know, I know so many people that struggle out there, and they struggle to, you know, SSI isn't very much when it comes to disability, and you struggle. And I want to show people that they have the ability and the opportunity out there, that they can actually have a decent life and work on their terms and around what they struggle, so that they're not a victim to it and they're empowered by it.
Oh, what an amazing goal that you have, and I'll be cheering you along all the way, and celebrating it with you when you reach that. So, like I said, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out to answer the questions on the platform. Really appreciate everything that you're doing, and it's really inspirational and motivational for myself as well. So. Just continue being you, and I'll definitely be tuning into all your social media and following for myself and for the followers. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, appreciate that. Thanks for taking the time out.
Always. Bye.
Take care. Bye.